Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. In the last Flutter videos, we've learned how to build a simple Flutter project just under 15 minutes, and we've also learned how to structure our code in such a way that follows the clean architecture. So in today's video, we'll be creating a very simple login UI in Flutter, and without wasting much time, let's get right into it. So one of the things I've done here is to create a default Flutter project, which we learned in the last video. So this is the default counter app. If I run this on my emulator, it shows up the counter app, but that's not what we're trying to build today. We're trying to build in the login UI. So one of the first things I would do, also to note, I tidied up some of the folders here. So we used to have the Linux, Mac OS, Windows folders here. So I've just tidied them and deleted them by leaving the Android and the iOS folders, because that's pretty much what we'll be building, Android apps or iOS apps. So one of the first things I'll do here is to delete this code, because at the moment we are not trying to create the home screen yet. We're just trying to build the login UI. So I found a design on Dribble which I like, which we'll be recreating today for the design. So the first thing I'll do now is to create a stateless widget, which I would name my login screen. Right, so it's as simple as this, and I'm just going to reference that here. Right, so just by doing this, we already have a very blank and a very lean login UI, which if I run this on my emulator at the moment, it would show us a placeholder. It will show us a placeholder screen. So I'm just going to move my emulator here, and this is what we have. So this is going to take a few seconds to run, and then it would bring up the default placeholder widget, which we have here on line 28. Right, so this is what we have as the default placeholder based on the code on line 28 for our login screen, but this is not what we want at the moment, so I'll just take it out. You hear me use the word widgets a lot in the course of this series for building apps in Flutter, and pretty much a widget is just a piece of your user interface. So when you look at a screen and you see your things like the text, a text is a widget in Flutter, a button is a widget in Flutter, a screen, pretty much the whole screen is a widget. As a matter of fact, the spacing and the layout that you have between elements are also widgets. So basically your Flutter app is just widgets inside widgets inside widgets, basically. And what you need to do is consider your whole app as just one big widget tree, and under that big widget tree, which is your whole application, you have smaller widgets which make up the whole widget. So when and I'm using the word widget a lot, but you have the smaller widgets that make up the general app that you see as a finished product. So like I mentioned, your text, your button, they are all the building blocks that make up your full application, which is a widget as well. So moving on to our UI. So what I'm going to do here is I will go on to start our code. So one of the best things about Flutter, which I mentioned before in the previous video, is that there's the auto reload, which means that as soon as I write a piece of code and I save it, I can immediately see the update. So what I would do is I'll bring back our placeholder app here, and the very first thing I would do is to turn this placeholder into a scaffold and save. So as soon as I hit save, you can see here that the changes have been made here. I will just make this just a bit bigger on my right, and because I want to take out this debug banner here on the right, I will just do that by doing this to false, and once more I will save, and immediately you can see the update has been saved on here. Right, so moving on, we have our scaffold here on line 29. So basically a scaffold gives you the basic structure, the basic layout structure for your page so that you don't have to build it from scratch. So when you reference the scaffold folder, it already holds things like an app bar, which is usually the navigator bar at the top, and then it also has a body. It has a floating action button, a drawer, snack bar, and pretty much access to things that would make out a basic layout structure for your app. So what I would do next is so on the body here on line 30, I'll just take this out and add a column. So a column takes children, and it takes children widgets which we can which are vertical. Now moving on, the next thing I would do is add the children, because this takes children here. So the first thing I will do is to add a text widget here, which I'm just gonna take this and hit save. We can see here the login screen is just at the right. We do not want it at the right. One of my favorite widgets actually is to ensure that we are within the safe area of our application. So what I will do is I will wrap our column in a widget called safe area. This would bring our login screen text to a safe area within the application. In this case, you can see here on the right that the login screen is just under the island on this particular device. Right, so I will just continue, and right, so for this text I will say hello, and I will just put in a different text here. We could do it multiple ways. There's always different ways of doing things. So I want to place this two text, one above and one at the bottom. We could do it multiple ways, but I like to keep the code very simple, so we're just gonna do hello there. Right, so I'll just stop here for a minute and add in my assets. So in the design that I want to build, which I'm gonna bring here for a minute, right, so this is the UI that I'm trying to replicate, and we'll be doing that in this video. So as you can see here that it has a specific font style, as you can see. So it looks quite fancy. We have the hello there, and then login, the login it's quite different from the default font that you see here on my screen. So one of the first things I would do is actually to import this fonts. Very important. So I have that on my folder here. So I have my assets here on my folder, which I'm just gonna import into the project here. So I'll be creating a new folder here called assets, and I will go in here into my Flutter application here and just copy and paste those assets in here. So you'd see here that the asset includes I have a Facebook icon, and it also includes two font types that we will be using within our app. One is a regular font style and the other is a bold style. So I'll be closing this. Now in Flutter, for you to be able to reference the assets, the external assets that you've added within your app, we will be going to your popspec.yaml, which is a very important file in Flutter, by the way, which as we progress you'll see just how important it is. So you wouldn't be able to use this assets unless you reference it here in your popspec.yaml. So we have the defaults here. So if you actually go through this YAML file, you'd see all the comments that were created by default by Flutter here. That is when you create a new project. So I'm just going to scroll to the bottom here on line 61 that already has the assets, and I'll just uncomment this. Now, because we have the name of our files that we want to import, specifically this one for the images, and we have at the bottom here on line 76 for the fonts. Now, there will be a point in time when your application is so large, and you could be 50, 100 image assets. You really don't want to come here to highlight each of the names. It's just gonna take forever. There's a more efficient way to do it. So what I do is I take out all these bits and I just reference the folder. So we have the assets here. So what I just do is image and I just put the assets. So what this does is it's able to reference the whole project and see that you actually have the asset folder. So it actually references all the files within that asset folder, which actually makes the work very neat and tidy. Now the second thing I'll do is under the font here, I would also uncomment this, and because we have our font name here called Montserrat, right, so I've just named that here, and then we have so I'm just gonna take this suggestions here, Montserrat regular and then Montserrat bold here. I'll take out this style italic because we do not have that, so this works for me. Because we have the bold font, I want to specifically state just the weight of the font text. So by default the regular is the font weight is just around 400. I want to specifically state that my bold is a specific weight, so I'm gonna define that here, and I'll just take 700 because that works fine for me. Not too bold, not too dark, just about right. So by doing this, we're able to reference the asset. Actually, the reason why this has been highlighted is that we do not have images/assets folder. It's actually just assets. So this should be fine in a few minutes, in a few seconds actually. So we've taken out the incorrect bit, which was highlighted because rightfully there was no images/assets. Now we can go back to our main.dat file, which has our login screen. So I'll just continue on here. Right, so here on the login screen we have the hello there that we had previously, and what we're gonna do is to add more life to this screen and make it presentable in such a way that it starts to look like our UI. So the first thing I would do is to actually add some design, some text style to each of the texts. We have the hello and we have the there. So I will be adding a style. As you can see, I have a suggestion here. I'll type this out. So we have a text style, and with the text style, the suggestion here is showing the font family which we've added as an asset here on the left, the Montserrat fonts that we've added to the application. So I'm just going to accept this, and also what I want to do is to actually add a font weight and a size. But I want my size to be I want the size to be bigger, so I'll take font size 80, and I would also change just bold, because as much as I want it to be bold, I want it to be very bold. So I'm just going to increase the weight here to 900. Perfect. So this is exactly what I want, and then I'll just replicate that for so I've just replicated that for the there. So this is nice and clean, just what we want. However, I want the text I want to close the gap between the hello and the there. So I'm going to wrap this. I'll wrap the widgets within a stack. So I have that here, and I was just adding some padding. There are ways that we can pad our application and add some spacing to the left, so we don't have all the values just on the left or on the right. The only reason why we have the spacing here is at the moment we have a safe area, which add some padding to the top of the application, but I actually want to add some to the left or to the right. So I will be adding some padding here, and I'll just do that for I only want the padding on the left side and at the top, so I'm just gonna do only from left. The LTRB stands for left, top, right, and bottom. So I'll be adding a padding of 15 for the left, and from the top of my application, let's say we want something about 100, and then I'll put in 0 for the rest of them, and then I'm also going to add some padding to the text. There's a general way we could do this. We could wrap the all of the stack in a padding, and that would also work just fine. But I want to specifically set where I want the spacings to be for each of the text, is why I'm adding the padding separately. So I'm also gonna do that here, but in the case of these in the case of the there widget, I'm actually going to add more padding here and make this I'll make this 170, and then I'll hit save. So this is looking good. This is exactly just where I'm expecting this to be. And now we can actually move on to the next part of the application, which is building the actual email and the password forms. So for this, I'll be creating a text field. So there's a text field and there's a text form field. They act very similarly, except that you can submit a form with a text form field. And but for the purpose of this particular video, we're keeping it simple by creating just a text field, which would add validation to in the coming videos. In the coming video, and what I will do now is I will go on to come outside this stack. This is still within the column, but just outside the stack widget. And what I'll do is within this, I will create a container. And within that container, a container takes a child. A container has a child widget. And for this, I'm going to add a column. Remember I mentioned earlier that your application is just widgets under a widget under a widget. That's pretty much what it is. And then I will create, so because the column takes children, I've created that them. So for the first text field, I could take this suggestion, but I actually want us to write out what we want to build. So we'll be creating a text field, and this text field is going to have a decoration. So let's start with that. So we're going to be creating a decoration here, and this is going to be an of input decoration. So you can see here we already have something, right? So you can see that as soon as we added the text field, it pushed our text here to the center, but we don't actually want it to start from center. We want our text to start from the left side. So what I'll do is I'll go back to the column here at the top, and I'll state here that for my column widget, on the cross axis, which is now the row alignment. So for the column, the main axis would be the fact that it's a column vertically, but because we want it to be the cross axis, which is the row, we want it to start from the left. I'll be creating a cross axis alignment, and I'll make that start, which would bring our text here back to the left side. Now back to our text field, which we were creating a few minutes ago. So what we'll do here is now that we've created the input decoration, we'll be adding where we have the int text here, but I don't want the int text, so I'm gonna change this to a label text. right? So we have the label text here. We're also going to add a style. So we have the label style here. This is a text style here, and I'm just gonna take the suggestion because we want it to be of font family Montserrat, but I wouldn't define a font size here. I think it takes the default size 16. So I'll be adding a font weight, which I'll be using just the default font weight of bold. Right, I'll save that, and then I would add a color. Yeah, because this is just a bit too dark. So I will add a color here and just make it colors gray. Right, so this is looking very good, and we will do the same thing on the right at the bottom for the email. But just before we continue, we need to add some padding just to make this look a bit better. So I'm just gonna wrap the whole of this column. Remember I mentioned that you can do this as opposed to what I did at the top here, where I added the padding to each of the widgets. You can actually come to the bottom and wrap the whole of the column here in a padding, which would work for all the children under the column. So what I will do is I'll make this symmetric and just say horizontal. So there are multiple types of padding you can do. You can set all, which will add a padding to all the sides, an equal amount of padding. So you set 10, you set 20, or you can set it from the left, top, right, or bottom, which you can specifically set the value you want for each of the sides. You can set from if you want it to only be on one side, or if you want it to be symmetric, whether horizontal or vertical, but in this case I'm gonna make it symmetric and say 15. Right, so that has added some padding on the left side and on the right side. So I'm just gonna add a bit more because I want it to just, yeah, so 20 looks good, and then we can proceed. So we already have the text form here for our email, and I'm just going to do the same thing for the password. So I'm just gonna make a copy of this and paste it here at the bottom and just save. So we already have that. I'll change this to password, take the tab and also click on save. I would also add in a space here just to make it look visually better than it is right now. I'll add in some height of 20, and this is starting to look very nice, right? And then we will continue. We'll continue with this. So the next thing we'll do based on the design we have here. So I'm just gonna show the design again. As you can see, this is starting to look like what we are trying to build. So the next thing I'll do now is to add in the forgot password, the buttons, as well as the text at the bottom here. Right. Okay, so moving on, I'll just add in an extra. So under the text form field here, obviously because when you put in a value on the text, it's currently open, so just for validation I'm gonna obscure the text and say obscure the text as true, which means that any values you put in here will be obscured. We're still going to discuss more about this in more videos, in the validation videos to come. So moving on to adding the other widgets. So I'm gonna add in a space here and add in the height of, let's just say I'll add in the height of about 40, just because I want some spacing between the password text form and the forgot password text. The next thing I would do is to create the text. So we have this, oh actually this is a very good suggestion on 88, and I will be taking that. Okay, so this is looking good. We have our forgot password text here. We have the font style, and then we have the color, which obviously we do not want it to be purple. So I'm just going to change this to green to match our design. And then we obviously want it to be underlined. So I'm going to add a decoration and I want it to be underlined. So this is looking very good. This is looking very nice. And then the last bit about this is that we want this to be right aligned. So I'm just going to add an alignment and make it on the right side. So there's a widget for alignment, which is align, and then I'm just going to say align on the end. Right, so this is what we have at the moment, which is looking good. One of the reasons why we have the default purple color that you see here for each of the widgets is because we set here on line 16 to 18 the theme of the application, which I'm actually going to take out because I am not exactly liking the default purple. So I'll take this out and we will continue. Right, so moving on to the next part of the design, which is our login buttons. Right, so what I will do here is adding some space, which is very much needed, and then I will go on to create our buttons. So right under the space here on 98, I'll press enter, and because I want there are different types of button, but I'm just gonna create a very basic type, and then we'll duplicate that for the outline button as well. So I will be creating an elevated button, and that for now wouldn't be doing anything, so I'm just gonna say that and leave as is. And I'll be adding in a text because obviously it needs to take text, so I will be calling this, actually I liked the previous suggestion, but that's gone. So yeah, so we have the login here, but this doesn't quite look like our design, so we need to add in some style to the button itself. So I'll be going, so under the elevated button here you can see the different options. You can see that we can add in a style, which is exactly what I am going for. So I'll put at the top here and pressed, and then here I will add in the button style. Actually, I'll take this default here and see what it looks like. So this is not looking too far off what we are trying to build. So what we've done here is we have the elevated button style from, which has a background color of green, which is okay, and then we have a padding of 100, which is exactly why it's not extending all the way. We will take that padding out because we do not want that. We already have a that's a different padding for the button within the button, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I'm just going to take that out once more and let that reduce in size. But then what I will do is I'll cover the elevated button in a container and adding an height of say 60, and then I would also extend the width all the way to the end and say double.infinity, which works just fine for me. Right, and now moving on to the text here on line 110. So we want to add in a style obviously for our text, so I'll be adding in a style here and a text style. That takes a text style. Yes, it takes a family, There's a missing bracket, and we have the login dots. We don't want it to be that large. We definitely want to change the color to white, which looks good, and then we want to make the text to be heavy, so we'll make the font weight to be bold. Good. So this is looking very good. This is looking nice, and then we will do the same thing for the outline button, but remember that the other button which we have here once more in the design is a different type of a button, so we'll be creating it in a different way. Right, moving on. So one of the things I will do here is to actually change this to match the way it looks. So yeah, so that's looking good, and then we will proceed to create the button, the outline button. So I'll be adding in a space in here, adding an height of about 20, which works fine for me, and then I'll be putting in the second type of button which I mentioned before. So in this case, it's gonna be an outline button. This also takes nothing currently on the on press, and it's going to take a text child, which the value of this from the design that we have, the value is login with Facebook, but let's just put the sign up for now based on the suggestion that was given to us. So actually I will be taking this bit and saving it in memory and adding in a row as the child here. Now for this, the row takes children, and for this particular one I want to be adding in an asset from Facebook, which is what we had before, and then the text that says, do you want to log in with Facebook or just log in with Facebook? So I'd actually take this suggestion and then we'll modify it. So if I save this, I mean, clearly we do not have the asset that says assets.google.png, because what we have here is facebook.com. So once I change this to facebook.com and I hit save, this should work in a minute. We'll see, we'll check just what's wrong. Right, so we have so I'm just gonna save this again and do a reload, because sometimes when you change the values on popspec.yaml, you might actually need to do a reload for that to take effect. So right, so we have that reload done, and we will proceed. I'll change this value to Facebook here, and then we will proceed to add in more designs for the rest of the button, the outline button in this case. So I'll just change it to login with Facebook. I prefer that to sign in with Facebook. Then we will make this centralized. So because this is the row, in this case is going to be the main axis, and we'll make it center, which centralizes the values, the widgets image for Facebook, as well as the text. I'll do the same thing here and actually add in an height of I'll add in a container first, and then I'll add in a height for 60 as well. That should look just fine. And I would also take down, I'll reduce the spacing between the buttons. So this is looking good. So this is going to show the suggestion for changing this to a size box, because it's not necessary as a container. So this is looking fine. And then the last bit on the design, so if we just do a quick comparison between the design we're following and this is, we have the rest of the text here, which we will be adding at the bottom. So next thing I will do now is to put in that value. So the first thing, I'll add in once more, put in some more spacing to keep it tidy. I'll add in the height of 20. That works just fine for me. Because we have a text there that has two different values, we could either make it, so there are two ways to this. You can either use the widget that is a text rich, or you can adding a row and just adding the two texts by the side, and decorate or adding the styles to each of the text as you want. So in this case, I will be going with the second option of adding a row. So I'll add in the first text. I'll add in the children first because this takes children. So actually I'll take this suggestion and save it and see. So this is very similar to what we want to do. And first I'm gonna take in the main axis alignment to make this centralized. I'll add in just a bit more padding here, make it about 40, and this is looking very good. What I'm going to do is I'll add in the color from, I'll change the color from gray to black just to give that a bit more visibility, and voila, it looks to me like we are done with our UI. So just a quick comparison between the screens. This is what we have when we did the UI. So this is looking good. Right, so just a recap of everything that we've done so far. So we have created a simple login UI that takes a scaffold, which is forms the layout for your screen. Added this to a safe area, which because if I take out the safe area, this is just to give you an idea of what a safe area does. If I take out this padding, if I take out this widget and save that, so it's still within the app, but there's the risk of it actually overflowing or outside the constraints that we have for the application in a case where we have more values at the bottom. So I'm actually just gonna take that and add that back. Right, so we have the safe area. We added a column here, the text widgets for hello and there, which we have here, and we also added some text out too. We added the email and the password, and then we put in a text widget here on the right side for forgot password, which is essentially just a text widget that aligns it to the right side. We also added some spacing, added the login button, and an outline button that takes an asset as well as a text, which is what we have here. And then we added some extra spacing, and then we added our text widget, and this is our login UI. So thank you very much for sticking around and watching to the end of this video. In the next video, we will be working on navigation by creating another screen. We could create the home screen and then navigate from this login screen to the home screen, and just show you just how navigation works in Flutter. So thank you very much, and see you there.